Now, I think, at the point where the rubber is beginning to hit the road. I think the Irish people are now beginning to find out what has been the result of the policies over the last several years, because it's beginning to hurt them where it hurts most, in their pockets and in their ability to provide for their future and for their families. There are three reasons why we are now facing massive cost of living increases and the possible horrifying spectre of hyperinflation. The first reason is because of the lockdown policies which we enacted over the last 2 years. What do you think is going to happen? When you print funny money, you're going to get inflation. The second reason is because of the disastrous sanctions policy that the European Union has instituted against Russia, and Vincent has spoken about that. We have effectively cut ourselves off from our own energy supplies. The third reason is the excessive speed with which we are pushing the agenda of decarbonisation. Coming to the lockdown, what do you think is going to happen? If you close down business for 2 years, if you destroy the economy for 2 years, if you arrange to have private assets transferred for small business people and from individuals to the multinational sector, what do you think is going to happen when you print money to subsidize all of this, and when you pay people to watch as their businesses are being destroyed? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get inflation. We now have an official inflation rate of 9.25%, which is the highest it has been since the 1970s. That's the official rate. I have a funny feeling if you go to any builder, if you go to anybody trying to fill their pumps, they will tell you the actual inflation rate is a great deal higher than that. We predicted this. We predicted this from the very early part of the lockdown, that this was the inevitable consequence of what was going to happen. Vladimir Lenin said many years ago, if you want to destroy a nation, the way you do it is you debauch its currency. We are in the process of debauching the value of the pound and of the euro in our pocket, and we're doing so with the full connivance of the European Union and with the full connivance of our government. You have to wonder, is this being done deliberately? Is it stupidity, or are they deliberately trying to take down the economic system, which will result in the impoverishment of all of us? I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it is time for us, now that we have witnessed a massive transfer of wealth from the private individual to the corporate sector, it is time for us to hold government to account. It is time for us to demand a full accounting of the lockdown policies. Do you really think we will ever have an examination of the health impacts of the lockdown policies? I don't think so, but we need one. We urgently need one as a people to find out what happened, to make sure it does not happen again. In regard to the sanctions policy, can you imagine anything more stupid than arranging to destroy your own energy sources? Do you realize that Europe is going about losing a war in which it has not been involved? Ursula von der Leyen has arranged for Europe to be the defeated party in this war, to suffer destruction of our own economy, for the simple reason that we have cut off our own energy supplies. Why have we done this? And by the way, while the European sanctions policy prevents us buying oil and to an extent gas directly from Russia, it allows Russia to sell that oil to third parties, who can then ship it over to South America and then ship it back to Europe and sell it at an inflated price. That's permitted. If anybody can say how this could make any possible sense, I would say there would have to be one of the mad men or the mad women of the Green Party, who seem to think that the destruction of our economy and the immiseration of our people is in some way a good thing because it will possibly save the planet. Maybe that's what they believe, but I can't see it. And I can assure you, this has done nothing whatsoever to affect Russia's ability to wage war. They're able to sell their products. Russia is not a small third world nation that you can sanction or bomb into oblivion. It is a large, diverse economy which will survive Western sanctions, and the West needs to wake up to it. The role of Europe and the role of a neutral country like Ireland is to be a peaceful party between the parties in what Dr. Carroll has correctly described as this border dispute, and that's what we should be doing. And by the way, in case anybody tells you that the cost of living increase is Vladimir Putin's fault, or the cost of energy prices is Vladimir Putin's fault, it is not Vladimir Putin's fault. I don't have a great deal of time for Vladimir Putin, but I can tell you, If we had a leader like Vladimir Putin in this country, he would look after the interests of his own people. He would not sell out those interests to the multinational globalist criminal cartels, which now seem to be controlling European Union policy.
We come first.
We certainly do. The Irish people are being lied to and they're tired of being fooled. We are in the process, however, of finally waking up, and those who are in government and in the false opposition better watch out when we finally do wake up. I now come to the third reason for the increase in cost of living, and that is the excessive speed with which we have tried to arrange decarbonisation. And we all know that this will not have the slightest impact, either locally or internationally, on the climate. Every time we get a bit of decent summer weather, you have these creeps, these holier-than-thou climate high priests from Sinn Féin and the Green Party telling us that this is a disaster. This is the summer! Let's enjoy the good weather while we have it! What is it with these people that they cannot stand to see people out enjoying themselves on the beach? There's something wrong with these guys. The idea that somebody somewhere would be enjoying a bit of good weather, it torments them. They're the most joyless pack of bastards you will ever meet. And as for that Greta Thunberg going around the place with her face like a slapped arse, I am sick and tired of listening to her nonsense, and it's about time we put an end to it. I remember one thing that Yeats said: "For the good are always merry, and the good, and for the good are always merry, and the merry love to dance, and the merry love to fiddle." Can you imagine a member of the Green Party being merry, or being able to laugh, or being able to dance? The only thing they can do is a bit of fiddling when they fiddle their own climate or their own carbon credit accounts. That's about the only thing they're good for. If we do not adjust our targets of cutting fuel emissions by 50% by the year 2030, we will drag our economy and our prosperity into the gutter. It may be that there are better and cheaper energy sources available to us, and let's make use of them when the time comes, but let us not accelerate this decarbonisation programme, because to do so will immiserate our people. We are right to blame the government for the mess that they're landing us into, but the sad thing is that practically every one of the opposition parties would be at least as bad, if not a great deal worse. During the very worst and very darkest days of the lockdown, who was calling for even more draconian measures against the people? Sinn Féin. Who was calling for an even greater ramp-up of the sanctions, economic sanctions against Russia? People Before Profit. Who is continually calling for increased decarbonisation and acceleration of that process, and increased carbon taxes against the people? The whole damn lot of them. At a time when fuel prices threaten our continued stability, our government is in the process of piling on more carbon taxes and imposing great restrictions on building and on industry. What have they planned for us next? In the middle of a housing crisis, we have the absurdity of our housing minister, who is not able to solve a housing crisis involving 10,000 homeless people, standing up in the Dáil and proudly saying he will not permit a cap on the number of immigrants coming in from Ukraine. Is this man off his head? Does he realise the stupidity of what he's proposing? 2 million people is the official number that our government has said they're going to bring into this country by the year 2040, at a time when Irish birth rates are on the floor, for the simple reason that people cannot afford the cost of housing and they cannot afford the cost of living. This process of mass immigration, uncontrolled immigration, to replace the Irish people is going to set the scenario for civil unrest, as it has done in every country where it has been tried before. You sometimes wonder if that kind of civil unrest is precisely what our parties in government want to create. At the same time, our Minister for Justice and Housing is planning the 39th Amendment to the Constitution, and the purpose of that amendment is effectively to abolish property rights in this country and to ensure that Irish people, as they always had done, will not be able to afford housing free and independently from the government. In the teeth of a rising crime rate, the other main interest of our Minister for Justice is in figuring out ways to silence the opposition by the proposed hate speech legislation, whose only purpose is the destruction of free speech. And remember, in a year's time, if they get their way on this one, we will not even be able to have meetings like this. Because if I speak the way I'm speaking, I will suffer the threat of arrest for offending somebody. We must not, under any circumstances, allow that to happen. We will not get away with it. They will not let them get away with it. Certainly not without a fight. I want to congratulate Yellow Vests for the re-emergence of their rallies. I know that many of their members have been targeted by our emerging police state, and that some of them have paid a very high personal price. We should give all of their rallies every possible support. I want to suggest that the immediate issue that faces us now is the issue of freedom of speech. The government are going to press ahead with that, and we must stop them. So I propose and I suggest the second Saturday of September, which is September the 10th, that all of the groups who are involved and concerned about the government engage in a mass protest to protect free speech. Because without free speech, we have no democracy, we have no civil society, and we have no civilization. We must therefore send a message to government that we will not allow them to destroy our constitution, to destroy our democracy, or to destroy our nation. We have had enough of the cowards of Fianna Fáil, of the social justice warriors of Fine Gael, of the crackpot ideologues of the Green Party, and of the Marxist PC posturing of the Sinn Féin Party. We need change, and there are parties out there who will deliver that change. We must make it clear to government and to the false opposition that we will hold them to account for the damage they have caused. Every day, in the teeth of the real emergencies that we as a people face, we read of some new crackpot policy, some new disaster, which is presented as if it is somebody else's fault. If the government wants to declare war on the people of this country and in the interests of the people of this country, they should know that the Irish people have not even begun to fight as yet. I suspect that we may be in for a long, hot summer and perhaps a long winter of discontent. And I would urge all of you to rally behind those who stand by freedom, who stand by Ireland, and who stand by this republic. Thank you very much. Thanks, Michael. Thank you.